Hi everyone. How's it going? My name is Diana. I'll introduce myself more in a moment, but before we get started, I wanted to make sure we point folks to the accessibility tools available for today's program. We have live transcript and automatic captions available if you need them. All you need to do is click the CC button at the bottom of your Zoom window to view the captions or the transcript. We also have, as you can see, ASL interpretation available thanks to Nicole and Rob, our interpreters for the day. And they will be spotlit throughout the program. And to make sure that you're viewing them, and if you need them, you can just click the button in the upper right-hand corner of the Zoom to view your Zoom in speaker view and to ensure that you have access to interpretation at all times. If you do not need access to ASL interpretation and you just want to see Eth-No-Tec's wonderful faces, you can just hover over their window, click on the three dots in the upper right-hand corner of their video to pin their window, and that will make their video show up full screen in speaker view. And then later in this program, we will also have breakout rooms for an open discussion. So let us know if you'll need any ASL interpretation for that, so that we can make sure that the interpreters end up in the same room as you. And to do that, you could either private message me, any of the co-hosts, or Rupa, who will be putting everyone into the breakout rooms. So thank you, Rupa, for being our tech manager for today too.
Oh, well, through this.
And talking about, I hear someone, so I'm just going to mute you really quick. And talking about muting, let me see. After each, so we'll just ask you to mute through the whole program, except for a few occasions. One is when you're joining the breakout rooms, when we want you to openly discuss anything with each other. And then after each performance, you can also feel free to unmute to applaud and show your love to Eth-No-Tec. And then we just ask that you mute again when you're done to prepare for the next performance. I will also say that this program, the main room of this event, will be recorded. The breakout rooms will not be recorded, so you're free to discuss openly there. It's just the main room that's going to be recorded. And I'll make sure to paste these accessibility notes in the chat in case you missed everything that I just said. But with that, I'm very excited to welcome you to today's program. My name is Diana, and I work for the Asian Pacific Islander Cultural Center, also known as APICC. And if you didn't know, this event is part of APICC's 25th annual United States of Asian America Festival under the theme of Generations of Power, which runs through the end of June this year. So please make sure to check out and register for more events on our calendar at the link that I'll make sure to paste in this chat as well. And this festival would not be possible without our funders, San Francisco Arts Commission, San Francisco Grants for the Arts, California Arts Council, Zeller-Bach Family Foundation, and Start Small. So thank you for supporting Asian American and Pacific Islander arts. Let's work together to keep the San Francisco Bay Area a place for AAPI art to thrive. Please email your district supervisors and let them know why this arts community is important to you and why you want them to continue supporting API art. And I also want to acknowledge that APICC is based in Yelamu, Ramaytush Ohlone land. And as a cultural center, we recognize that we are hosting this festival and program as uninvited guests on unceded territory and want to honor the Indigenous peoples who continue to steward the futures of these sacred lands. If you want to learn more about how to honor Indigenous peoples, we encourage you to find out which lands you reside on. You can also search and learn about rematriation projects and potential land trusts in your area and other ways you might be able to support and contribute. And I'll paste some links and resources for that as well. But without further ado, it's my pleasure to hand the virtual mic off to Nancy and Robert of Eth-No-Tec.
All right, welcome everyone. My name is Nancy Wong.
And I'm Robert Kikuchi Ngoho.
And we are Eth-No-Tec, and we are so happy to see you here. We have put together this program because APICC had this wonderful theme, Generations of Power, and we thought, well, we're elders, and we can start thinking about generations of power. And so today's, our show is really about not only celebrating feminine wisdom, but also highlighting the need for feminine wisdom now in these very, very troubled times.
And especially the generations those that came before us, and also for future generations.
Yes. So our program can start.
And what's going to happen is we'll tell a story, and then we're going to have some discussion about it. So we have some discussion questions to share
We have
with
some
you,
prompts for you.
and they'll be in the breakout rooms. Yeah.
Yeah. All right. Shall we start?
We shall start.
All right. Okay. My very first story is about my mother, and it's a very shortened version of my mom's story, Bittersweet. Who were they? Who were our ancestors? What did we inherit from them? My mother, Gladys Chin Wang. My mom. Oh, she was something else. No matter who met her, within moments they had only one word for her: feisty. Her word for herself: tough. That's me, tough. And she'd stick out her knobby, bent, arthritic pinky finger as proof. As a #1 volleyball player back in her college days, it was during a game that her pinky finger at the second knuckle got bent backwards. The coach simply clicked it back into place and sent her right back into the game. Oh, not like today. They take care of you if you have some injury. Back then, you just had to tough it out. That's me. Tough. She was tough, and she was fast. I remember as I was going down the street down in the middle of Chicago, I had to make sure to keep up with her, and I had to make sure I kept following her, stalking the legs. I think if I got lost, she wouldn't have even noticed. Well, I do think she eventually would have figured it out. That was the 1950s. Enter 2005. Aunt Mary, 92, and my mother, 94. Oh, she takes us all the time. She goes so fast. She can fall down. She picks herself right up and keeps going. She walks ahead of me. I could never keep up. Keep up. Not like keep up with the Joneses. A bit different. In Chinese culture, if you snooze, you lose. For thousands of years, with millions of people in China trying to eke out a living despite the class inequities, the droughts, the famines, and the political upheavals, you'd better keep up. You'd better be tough and work hard. No slouching allowed. And when the Chinese came to America, we brought that toughness with us and a work, work, work attitude. I can trace my toughness back to 1850, when my teenager great-great-grandfather and great-great-grandmother purchased a junk with 4 other teenagers and sailed all the way from China. They were all fisher people. They're in a small village near the Pearl River Delta, but none of them had sailed the sea before. After 2 months at sea, they were caught in this unseasonal storm along the coast of California. Heaving waves, slashing rain, all they wanted to do now was to tell their story. And that they did, which is why I am here. If you have heard of the Cannery Row in Monterey, California, made famous by John Steinbeck, no doubt you will think of Italians, but the Chinese were here long before the Italians, and my great-great-grandparents, along with the 4 other teens, started the fishing industry in the Monterey Bay Area after crashing into the Carmel Bay. It was easy for them, and it was hard. Easy because they were already fishermen, and they were tough. Hard because of racism. During our second generation, the arrival of Italians and the Portuguese, well, they were new, and what they did was they ended up trying to stop us from fishing by ramming our boats and cutting our nets. And then there were the Irish who wanted, Chinese must go, Chinese must go, America is for whites only. Monterey passed laws such as the Chinese are not allowed to fish during the day. So we fished at night and started the fishing industry. The Chinese then, cannot dry their fish. Well, that made it impossible for them to dry and send the fish to other communities. So what do? We picked up all the rotten fish that the Italians just threw out on on the beach, and we started doing wonderful, stinky fertilizer and sold it to the villagers of the farmers. So, what did we do? We had to reinvent ourselves over and over again. And we succeeded, much to the dismay of the Monterey citizens. And so, what else to do? They burned down our fishing village. And did that do it? No. Though we were not able to rebuild in the same place, we built a smaller one in a smaller village. But then our fertilizer factory was burnt down. So now it was a chance to maybe go somewhere else. And that's what happened to my family. My second generation great-grandma had already been married to a man in San Francisco, and so moved there. Her daughter, her first daughter, third generation, my grandma, was born in San Francisco, also married at 15, but to a man in Chicago. There she gave birth to 7 fourth-generation children, 5 of her nephews and nieces, and even her own younger siblings. And she started, therefore, being a mother at age 17 for 15 kids. Now, if that doesn't have to be tough, you'd better be tough. And this is where my mother came in. She was born number 2 in the Chinese family, daughter. Not a good place to be. Number 2 daughters are resented for being born. It's okay for the first daughter, but then a second daughter? She told me she had to do all the babysitting, do most of the chores, and was blamed if anything went wrong. Not the oldest daughter, and not the older number 1 son. But for some reason, she felt very special to her father. Every morning, she was the one that ran to the kitchen, to the chicken coop, and took an egg and gave it to her grandfather, who popped it into his mouth. And every day, not every day, maybe once a week, she had dancing classes, and she would then go to the wonderful big restaurant her father had put together, the Mandarin Inn, and there she would order her very first and very favorite beef, roast beef. And because of that, they all called her Roast Beef Gladys. And then one day, she heard her father was dead. She was 12 years old. Now, my grandmother blamed her own brother for pushing her husband down the elevator shaft 4 floors down. But maybe it was the tongs. There was an article that said that the tongs had targeted my grandfather, his 2 brothers, and his father to be assassinated. And interestingly, the night he was killed or died, it was the night before he was moving all his family to China. Why? They sold everything. Was it because they were unsafe being there from the tongs? Well, my grandmother was now alone at 35, still having to raise 15 kids, no home. So she did it, though. She found a job as a seamstress, and she raised all 15 children and even sent 11 of them to college who wanted to. And this is where my mother came in. She, too, went to college. She went to China. If your family could afford it, they were able to send their children to China to be immersed in the culture and to learn the language. Well, my mother loved it there. 5 years later, after being 13 in middle school, she was in college and loving it. And this is where her pinky finger became such a noble cause. She was an amazing athlete. I was told 1 out of 10 of the entire country. She was one of the 10 best athletes. She was doing volleyball, baseball, track, shot put. She was amazing. And then she decided to become a nurse. Now, I would think that, a nurse, that's a nice thing, but what we learned is from her is that you should not ever want my mother as your nurse, because she was like Nurse Ratched. She had no patience, and she was tough and rough. So what happened? What happened to my mother that she became this kind of person? She had traveled through China with many of her friends on bicycle, camel even, trains. What happened to her? Had she been happy-go-lucky then? Well, this is what I think happened. In 1937, she agreed to return to Chicago for a family reunion, but she had every intention of going back. She wanted to help during the war in China. But plans and fate are two different things. In Chicago, she met my father. And when they were married, my father he became vice consul to consul general and was stationed in New Orleans. And during the war, it was pre-World War II, then World War II, then post-World War II. There was no more money. And so my mom had to do it. She had to do it. She worked nights as a nurse, and then during the day, she kept things going as well. And my dad, he got to be out there in the community as a scholar, and he would come home and read. No more dancing, no more sports for my mom. The disappointment and loneliness must have really hurt my mother. All she was now complaining. She was angry all the time. Her disappointment and loneliness became that, angry. And then 3 years after my father died in 1991, guess what? She chose me. She chose me to live with. I had won. Was I now the favorite? Well, now everything would be wonderful. You know, she would be like, the mother in Donna Reed's show, and we would talk about everything, and we would laugh together. We would go shopping and cook together. She would say wonderful things about my grandkids and my children, and it would be wonderful. And you know, the best years of her life, she also often told us, was in China. Now that would be different. Did I mention 10 years of surgery was not of therapy was not enough? Delusions are so tenacious. She came into the room the downstairs flat. Too big. Too old. She demanded everything. She wanted a new refrigerator, a washing machine, a new sink. She wanted everything. And her favorite word for all of us was stupid. She had all her grandchildren's pictures up on the wall. Not mine, my own adopted kids. And she never said thank you, especially when I did something like her 95th birthday party. She would just fold her arms and say, why should I thank you? Isn't that what daughters are supposed to do for their children? For daughters supposed to do for mothers? And I could only say, well, you could. Yes, that's true, but you could also say thank you. Well, thank you. Now you happy? I could only laugh at that point. Then one day, I came down and found my mother, that she had slept over way longer than she usually did. And she was standing by her ironing board, and she was cold, she said, and she couldn't get warm. She smelled. So I told her, let's give you a hot bath. And when she was warmed, I took her to emergency. And when we were sitting there, she was just staring out in space. And I asked, Mom, what are you thinking about? And she told me that she was thinking about what a wonderful childhood she had. I nearly fell off my chair, because all we had heard was about all the horrible times she had as a child. Like what, Mom? Well, I remember that we would always go to Pawpaw Lake in Michigan with the family, and we would walk out into the middle of the lake, and it would still be only up to our waists. Wow, what else? Well, we would take little frogs and toads and turtles, and we would race them. And then I would run down between corn stalks, and my mom and dad would be there strolling, holding hands. Well, I remember we would sit on the stoop of the staircase and look through the banisters as my older uncles and aunties were dancing with all their friends. Wow, what had happened? It was like she had become a different person. Now it was confirmed that she had a heart attack and 20% of her heart had died. I wondered if that 20% was the part that was bitter and hurt, lonely and disappointed. Because after that she was wonderful. She was patient. She was kind. She was funny. She was hilarious. She taught myself, my daughter, my husband, my in-laws, all my friends to play mahjong. And she was so patient. We would be sitting there going, let me see. And then she, with a deadpan, would simply say, "What are you waiting for? The second coming?" She was different. She even told me, or at least her caretaker told me, that my mother told her she loved her. My mother telling someone she loved her? The bitterness, the anger had vanished. The sweet had risen. In time, she was confined to a wheelchair, hooked to an oxygen tube, and I, the dutiful daughter, made all the arrangements so that she might have her last wish, which was to die at home, which she did in September 2008, right before her 97th birthday. And as I was going through everything, I found a note that she had written before her heart attack. This is what she wrote. "Today is the last day of 27,000 in San Francisco, the birthplace of my mother, Yokeland. It has been quite an experience living independently in a first-floor apartment. Has been great as I manage my life as I please. I go to bed whenever I go to bed whenever I want and arise accordingly. After breakfast, I may go out to roam the neighborhood, go to a thrift shop on 20th and Mission to look and shop. If I find anything interesting, which I generally do, may go on to grocery stores if necessary. Nothing like buying something and then my little cart gets full. I do enjoy my freedom to do as I wish. All I want is to maintain my independence and mobility." Independence and mobility, like in China. Independence and mobility, which she had lost completely with my father and having us children. Independence and mobility, that's all she wanted for herself, to be that fun, loving, athletic, and well-liked, adventurous woman we never knew. What I recognize now is the amazing courage she was. She had been bitter, all right, but she'd done her best anyway. When she left China, when her father died, her hand would shoot up when anything needed to be done in sports, even though she didn't know anything about it. She never let her disappointment abandon us. And then I remembered how she would stay up all night and alter my prom dresses. I had 5 proms. I went to 5 different high schools, 5 different... And then she would bring home all these exciting clothes for us when she went on a shopping spree. And then she found scholarships for us to go to private overnight for a week. Those camps were wonderful. They changed our lives. And then she put us all through college. She didn't let her sadness or her loneliness abandon us. I remember seeing her for the first time without teeth. I was shocked. I asked her why she had no teeth. Her response? You kids needed the dentist. She paid for braces for me, and she went without teeth. Sacrifice. That's Chinese love. We thought we weren't loved, but we had been loved. She was that stubborn, persistent, just like our immigrant ancestors, sailing towards America and starting a new life with nothing. Or maybe not with nothing. It is not the tangibles, those things we can see and touch, that should be looked for, but the intangibles like courage, determination, toughness. All my life I muttered to myself, after yet another assault by my mom, I'm never going to be like you when I grow up. Now, maybe I have, but not in the way I feared. Maybe I have the same courage, the same perseverance, the same feisty generosity of life she possessed. Mom, I know who you are. I know who you were now. A gift amidst chaos. Your life and your death have given me more than you can imagine. Thank you. Thank you. I miss you so much.
Beautiful, Nancy. Really beautiful.
Thank you. Thank you. You know, my mom was a nurse Ratchet, but, with that kind of anger, I guess. Because I remember walking down the street once when I was 11 years old, and there was I was with her going to the bus, and there was a big crate in the middle of the sidewalk, and I didn't see that there was a big nail sticking out, very sharp, very big, and that nail, as I walked by, scraped along my calf. And what did my mom, Nurse Ratchet, do as I was crying in pain? Now look what you've done. Now you're going to have a scar on your leg. That was the kind of anger and the kind of complaining and that she did with us. And so we, of course, didn't feel loved. But now that she's gone, I know we were loved. So our question for you in your breakout rooms is to, this is what I want, I gotta read it, is what inheritances from your parents have informed the way you live now? How has that become gems of wisdom in your life? Okay. I think it will be put in the chat too if you have to. But what inheritance from your parents have informed the way you live now? How has that become gems of wisdom in your life? Okay, breakout rooms. See you later. 10 minutes. Everyone gets 10 minutes. 3 minutes each. 3 people in each room.
Well, part of this show, too, is about building community and sharing common experiences. And so we have those questions there for you to engage with each other about these treasures. So how would you like to, do you want someone to share?
Yeah, if someone would like to share, we can take 2 or 3 shares before we go to the next story. Yeah. Just unmute yourself and start talking.
Open
Wow, are all Chinese families the same?
Oh.
Hi, Bowen. Sounds familiar, huh?
It sounds so familiar.
Yeah.
Not so much with my parents, but the generation before. My grandparents were very similar to your mom. Nancy, very, very bitter and grumbling all the time, just like complaining. It wasn't until she got really old that she mellowed out and everyone loved her. It's like because she was, just she's still feisty, but funny feisty, not bitter feisty, not
Right.
complaining feisty,
Exactly. Yeah.
but very, very similar.
Seems a
And
miracle.
I don't even want to think about my parents yet, but I'm still working on how my grandparents and I have related.
And sometimes
Good.
you've heard in some Asian cultures that parents will sort of purposely degrade or downgrade their kids publicly, and they say it sometimes so that the spirits won't take their good children away. You sort of falsely say, "Oh, you don't work hard enough.
Why can't you be like?
can't you be like Bowen's kids?" Or, like that.
Anyone else? Thank you, Bowen.
Raise your
Sure.
hand.
Here's a Filipino one. Oh,
Hi.
Say,
Hello.
Hi. Can you hear me?
Yes,
Hi, Yuri.
Rico.
Yep.
So my parents were quite different in that they were scarred from World War II as Japanese people who had, my dad fought for Japan and they came over after the war. And so when they came to Los Angeles, my mother had me as a baby and my brother was 5. I mean, they were definitely discriminated against. And, people would sneer at them and not rent to them because, of course, we look like the face of the enemy. And so I was raised to, as I said to my breakout room, Lori and Ben, that my parents were always afraid that I would be hurt, that I would be taunted, that I would be chased home from school and whatnot, which was, I was a little bit, but not as much as they told me to be afraid of, to be careful, to be suspicious of others, to think that others were going to hurt us, which of course, as I become an adult now, I see that it was not a bad thing. It was just them trying to support and keep me safe.
Yes, yes. Great. Ben, did Ben want to say something?
Nope.
No. Yeah.
Yes, I'll say something. Sure. Hi. My group was Eureka and Lori, who just spoke, I believe, or at least Eureka just spoke. My parents were well balanced. They were great at raising me. My dad was traveling a lot for his job, for his work. So my mom did the major lifting in terms of parenting. While my father was still very significant. And I think that the thing that they, particularly my mother, taught me was how best to raise my own child, my own daughter, in a balanced way, and to open doors and expose our daughter to lots of different things, taught values and those kind of basic principles. And so that's what I got from my mom.
Wonderful.
All
Great.
right. Okay, let's go on to the next story. The next story is actually a story from Japan, and it is called "Old Wise Woman."
I want to dedicate this to the last of the many kikuchis from my father's generation, Auntie Alice, who lived a fine life to 103 years, and she lived a long life, and just want to honor her and all the aunties of that generation for the gifts they gave us.
You have to change the thing.
Okay, so Nancy will stall while I'm doing some techno stuff. Go ahead.
All right.
Folktale from Japan, The Wise Old Woman.
Mukashi,
Mukashi, aru tokoro ni.
Long ago in ancient Japan, a chief of a village found himself in quite a quandary.
Why are we having this argument? Here, In our Valley of Peace, well, we are especially proud of the young able-bodied youth whose strength and ingenuity produce the village's abundance of crops. And iron as well, iron used for our tools and whatnot. And then, there are our elders, who have decades of wisdom to share and give wise counsel when requested.
Indeed. The newest dilemma was between the young council of men, to whom the chief spoke, and the elderly he spoke of. His counsel argued.
The old can't work hard like us. They're so slow.
They take up so much energy and time taking care of them.
We young people, we work hard. We contribute daily to our communities.
What do they do?
The old and young are incomparable when measured that way. But do not the elderly give us their wisdom from their long and many years of experiences?
The council just merely laughed. Exactly. An incomparable measure. Meaning no measure at all. How do you measure wisdom?
And with that, the chief reluctantly gave up and decreed that all elderly, every old mother and father, uncle and aunt, and all the grandparents must be sent away high in the mountains.
And though it was still fall and the weather bearable, winter would soon be coming, and the fate of the elderly at the mercy of winter snows and hungry wolves would be certain.
Now, in this so-called Valley of Peace, lived one young farmer, Jiro, who lived with his aging mother, Mama Yuriko.
He heard the decree like his neighbors. He knew the consequences of disobeying, but...
My mother gave me my life. She raised me, she fed me, she bathed me, and advised me and tended to me when I was sick. How could I dare sentence her to death, whether by beast or blizzard, or ingratitude?
Shush, shush, my son. The chief's decree was clear, though foolish. Anyone who spares an elder's life will be put to death. No, I could not and would never do that to you, so we will think of something different. Let me think.
Soon it was decided that Mama Yuriko would stay hidden down under the chamber floorboards.
Each day, her son would deliver her meals by lifting a secret plank in the floor.
Each day she asked her son to give her news from the village.
And each day she reminded her son, the importance of keeping their secrets.
Each night she would tell her son the many stories that would last him his lifetime, stories to help him live through even the hardest of times.
She knew she needed to prepare him if something even more terrible should happen.
And through the cracks of the floorboards glowed the richness of her wisdom. Then, one day, a horseman rode into the village and presented himself before the chief and his court.
A message of warning from the north. My Lord Higa will be invading your village or valley, and aim to make you his slaves. Any resistance will be met with death. However, Lord Higa is merciful. If you succeed in proving that your wits are stronger than our swords, he will leave you alone. He wants only one gift to prove it so.
Oh, gifts? Gifts? Oh, we can offer many gifts.
I have a bolt of silk.
We can offer strings of pearls.
Oh, stop. Your offerings are pitiful. Lord Higa requests only one gift from your village. A box. A box containing a rope of ash, nothing less.
And the horseman galloped away over the mountains.
Now, the village was in a panic. The chief was in a panic. His court was in a panic.
Everyone tried over and over again to make a rope of ash.
They tried molding, tweaking, rolling ash into the shape of a rope.
But no matter how carefully it was fondled, it instantly crumbled into a shapeless pile of powdery ash.
Impossible!
We are doomed!
Now Jiro, the young farmer, and the loyal son, witnessing all their failures, brought Mama Yoriko the news as promised.
The old woman, beneath the floorboards, listened and then simply shook her head with a chuckle.
Oh, such a fuss. A rope of ash, eh? That's a simple task. Do exactly what I tell you, son.
Within a day's effort, Jiro accomplished the task and was ready to present Lord Higa's gift.
He traveled up to the mountains and all the while carefully holding a box. Once he arrived, he placed his gift before Lord Higa and opened it carefully.
Oh, a rope of ash indeed. I thought this would be impossible, but, well, tell me, how was this made?
Jiro explained that he had soaked the rope in a thick brine, coiled it, and let the salty water dry completely. Placing the coiled, salty, dried rope in a box, it was then carefully lit to slowly burn. The burning, the hemp, took time to devour the rope, and when finished, all that was left was a briny skeleton holding the a perfect, delicate ash of rope coiled neatly in the box.
Ah, very clever indeed. Then we shall delay the attack for now. Now, you may leave.
Jiro returned to his village with announcing the good news. The villagers celebrated.
That is, until the next morning, once again, the horsemen returned to the village.
You have been spared so far. As my Lord Higa is still not convinced that your wit is mightier than our swords, he proposes a second challenge. Another gift is demanded.
The horseman then held up a crooked branch, twisted and knobby, and then tossed it to the chief. The chief saw that this crooked wooden branch had been completely hollowed out.
Your task is to draw a silk thread from one end to the other through the crooked core of that hollow branch, and then return the threaded branch to my Lord Higa. Only then we will halt our attack.
Once again, the villagers were in an uproar. Everyone was summoned to attempt this impossible feat, but each one failed to shove a silk thread through the winding, twisted hollow of that branch. Impossible! We are doomed!
Now, Jiro, taking his turn, ran home with the branch and explained the challenge to his mother.
His mother thought for only a second, then smiled.
My son, this is what you do. First, capture a large black ant. Wind a loop of silk around its belly, its waist, very loosely. Dab a drop of sweet honey to one end of the branch, and then place that ant on the opposite end with the thread. Simply sit back and watch as it makes its way to the honey.
Jiro set about to the task. Immediately, the ant crawled its way in and about, up and down through that twisted tunnel of that hollow branch, towards the reward of waiting sweetness.
The ant was released, leaving the silk thread completely strung end to end through the hollow of that very crooked branch. And once again...
Ha! Ingenious indeed. But perhaps it was just a stroke of luck. Well, then, bring me another gift. Bring me a drum that beats all by itself if you want to save your village.
Jiro returned, hurried back to home, running with rage.
He's a liar. He's a bully. When will all this stop?
After reporting to the chief, he returned home to convey the next challenge to the ears of his mother.
Through the cracks of the floorboard, he heard his mother giggle.
Ah, Jiro, do not let Lord Higa's evil, your anger. No, this drum that beats by itself is the easiest of all. And the villagers could certainly make the solution if they would think instead of panic.
His wise mother, between the giggles, whispered the instructions to her son. And now he too started giggling and then set about the task. And that very next day, Dido made his ways up into the mountains and over to the next kingdom to deliver the third gift. But before leaving, his mother gave him words of wisdom.
Jiro, be bold but humble, my son. When you tell him these gifts, requests must end.
Behold, your lordship, the drum that beats by itself.
As the Lord lifted the drum in his hands, don, don, doga, doga, don, don, the drum let out a resounding rhythm all by itself. Don, don, doga, doga, don.
Impossible. Tell me, how did you do this?
Doga, don, don.
Ooh. I will keep this one a secret. That is, until you keep your word to leave us alone. Not only are our wits stronger than your swords, but our many secrets are even stronger than our wits.
The ministers turned to each other and to Lord Higa.
Maybe they have secret strategies and more secrets that could destroy us.
And greater weapons than ours.
Maybe the great spirits are behind them and siding with them against us.
Oh, they could be a formidable foe. We dare not engage with them for our own survival.
You, boy, listen carefully. I, Lord Higa, have decided that your puny village is not worth the efforts. But note, we are mighty, but we are also merciful. Your village is safe from attack forevermore. Now, tell us the secret of that drum that beats by itself.
And Jiro, with the promised words, punctured the skin of the drum, and out flew the drummer, a buzzing bee who had been sealed inside. Now, also released, he went triumphantly back to the village and celebrated about the canceled invasion. Now he was summoned to the court by the chief.
Congratulations, Jiro. We are much in your debt for that rope of ash, the threaded hollow branch that saved us. Now, but tell us, that magical drum that beats by itself, how?
Jiro stepped forward to explain.
My mother, she told me how to...
What? The council gasped.
Mother? Your mother?
He's broken the law!
Well, put him to death!
But the chief raised his hand to silence his boisterous young counsel and asked Jiro to explain.
Yes, my mother. She's the one who solved all three of the challenges. I merely carried them out. Inside that drum was simply a hidden bee, like my mother, hidden under the floorboards.
The chief turned to his belligerent and ranting young counsel.
Silence. Perhaps wisdom cannot be measured, but the results of wisdom can. Summon all my servants now. Immediately ride to the mountains and return all our village elders. Bring them home. Wisdom has proven it is indeed a comparable measure.
Within a few hours, every elder was returned to their families, who welcomed them with embraces and apologies.
Mama Yuriko climbed up from under the floorboards and was soon summoned along with her son to join the chief at a banquet in her honor.
She gladly accepted, provided that the same foods would be shared with all the other elderly in the village.
She addressed the chief and his council.
As you can see, I am an old woman, which means I have lived a long life of experiences. When we elders meet our final days, then you young ones who have grown up with your many experiences in your many years will in turn become the wise elders yourselves. In that way, you are us and we are you. Never forget that.
The chief thanked Mama Yuriko, whose name, Yuriko, by the way, has many meanings. reason, smart, friend, and even child.
The chief found a tear rolling down his cheek. He apologized for ever doubting the importance of all the generations and essentially the elders.
And, like Jito, a son who refused to turn his back on his mother, from that day forward, this village invested not in great weapons,
but in the greatest treasure of all,
the wisdom
and wit
of their
elders.
Meditashi,
Meditashi,
meditashi, the end.
Woohoo! Love that one.
Okay.
So, in these troubled times, here's what you're going to do. You're going into another breakout room with different people, I think, and the prompt is, in these troubled times, how can we use our learned wisdom to prevent further disasters, both personal and for our world? How can we use our learned wisdom to bring more joy into our own lives? What stops us? Again,
In these troubled times, how can we use our learned wisdom to prevent further disasters, both personal and in our world, for our world? How can we use our learned wisdom to bring more joy into our lives? What stops us? So now we'll go to breakout rooms.
Thank you, Rob and Nicole. You're it's wonderful to watch you visualize and make the words be real in a visual way. Thank you so much.
so if anyone wants to share what you discovered, please just unmute yourself and give us your wisdom.
I'll go first. That's fine.
Ben again. Yes.
Right.
Okay. We had a very animated discussion, and I won't steal the thunder from my two mates who have some pretty good ideas, very animated ideas. My idea with this was taken from lessons from a Dale Carnegie course I took a number of years ago, which is to do less talking and more listening and empathize with the person that you're having a conflict with and put yourself in their shoes. And you have to do it honestly without faking it, because the other person will be able to tell if you're faking it. And then you can begin to have a conversation on this. And I guess so far I've had some success with my far right middle brother who no longer cares for Tucker Carlson.
There you go. Peace is possible.
That's my input.
Thank you.
Thanks, Ben.
Sure.
Anyone else?
Don't be shy.
Did you not?
Well, what we talked about was old wisdom, ancient wisdom that is coming back. There's a movement to bring ancient wisdom back. And so it reminded me of a documentary on PBS about Yurok Indians in Northern California and how they have been given their land back, and they have started to do controlled burns. And it works so well to help the forest regrow and keep it thriving. And so I think it's so important to go back to the ancient ways, because they're a much more wiser
than a lot of the current ways. And so
Right.
we talked about that in our group.
Right.
Great.
The indigenous ways are sustainable. Yes.
Excellent.
Thank you, Alexandra.
One more?
I'll go.
Okay.
Hi, everyone. So, I didn't say this explicitly, but we did talk about just courage. Both of my breakout roommates talked about gathering, even through the pandemic, and taking that risk and being together with family and friends, and for celebrations and for important events, and oftentimes still paying the cost of a positive COVID test, but marshaling through that anyway, being fully vaccinated and boosted, and it being worth it. And so just the idea of courage, no matter what, that will, we need that now. And to have a causes and purpose and have that courage. Thank you.
Yes.
Absolutely.
Thank you.
In the face of the most horrible stuff, courage. Yeah.
Great.
All right. We will go on to our last story.
I'm going to take a moment here to get all these little boxes off of here so we can see the who and where and why.
All right.
So in our last story, between the two of us, Nancy is a wonderful writer, and she leads the research for the motifs of folktales and mythology. For me, I've got lots of books. Well, every once in a while, there's a story that just pops off the pages for me. And when I found this next story, I just loved just the premise of this. And so I'm going to take a moment here before we present the story of folktale from India, and it is called The Three Sisters.
Yes.
Rock and roll. Story inspired by the folktale from India. There once were three sisters, as beautiful as they were worldly, otherworldly.
These three otherworldly sisters made their abode not upon a lofty cloud, nor a majestic mountain.
No, not even on a mysterious island hidden in the mists, but in the depth of a deceivingly small but infinitely vast underwater realm of a pond.
Not a shimmering, iridescent pond, no, a murky, muddy, slimy, algae-filled, dark pond.
But don't be fooled, for this is where the three sisters lived, in the most beautiful palace of an unending enormity and luxury. Look up, Nancy.
Welcome to our world. I am Sister Birth. I'm Sister Death. And I'm Sister Dream. But do not worry if you get us confused. For is not birth, death, and dream just one continuous stream? Does not past, present, and the future become one another in time? After all, the future, when it arrives, becomes the present, and eventually the past. And then it begins all over again. Yes. Humans are born. Humans die. And humans have their dreams. We are one. Yes, we are. We are the ones, my sisters and me, that oversee every life above our murky pond. And do not let murky be misconstrued as unclear. No. We are very clear about the human experiment.
In order to be privy to humans' enormous complexities, the three sisters rise above the surface and soar unnoticed amongst the humans. Each day, they assign birth, death, dreams, then record how humans respond and learn, hoping that wisdom is gained, no matter how long it takes. Now, there are some who seem to never learn, while a few do choose a different way
and with wisdom are able to step off the wheel.
Ah, birth, death, and dreams. Yes, and over again for many millennia in your world, birth, death, dreams, and I, Sister Birth, still cannot understand how you humans take birth and life, which is such a miracle, for granted. And why are you so afraid of me, Sister Death? Do you not realize that there are many deaths, some very tiny, yes, but not just the final end of one life? Oh, get used to it. And dreams, of course most of you ignore me, or you get lost in your dreams and never emerge to fulfill them. Or you dismiss me as mere whim, frivolous and trivial. Oh, no. Quite the contrary. Dreams create your future. Future.
And that's why the sisters are always so busy offering birth, death, dreams, birth, death, dreams, birth, death, dreams over and over and over again. The lessons continue until each human gets it.
Wisdom should not be that difficult.
Now, let me introduce you to a young man named Racha. Oh, Racha had lost it all up there. He had nothing, no one to live for, and so in desperation, he just wanted to drown his sorrows in a watery death. But somehow, he was found at the bottom of that pond outside the palace gate, miraculously alive.
Sisters, shall we study him? When we visit the Earth realm, we never get to really know a single soul up there. We merely work and leave. Shall we determine whether we should keep him or send him back? Interesting indeed. Interesting. Interesting proposition. If he's wise, I say he can stay. Wise? I doubt that, since he plunged into our murky waters hoping to die. That's not a sign of listening. I say, if he's worthy, shall we have one of us marry him? Interesting. Interesting indeed.
And so the sisters decided to tempt him to stay. Oh, they showed them the fineries and the grandeur of their palace. Tours of the great halls. They dined him on exquisite dishes, surrounded him with heavenly music and dancing, and showed him hospitality of the watery realm. Then they explained their lifestyle, their daily routines of birth, death, and dreams. And when it was time for the sister to leave for their daily task, the test they devised began.
Racha, help yourself to all the luxuries of this palace of ours. Tickle through the treasures. Do not hesitate to fondle all the riches. Yes, please. Everywhere the palace is fine to explore, except not there.
And they pointed to a rather dull and very plain wooden door. Of course, Racha politely nodded yes. What else was he to say? Racha was a simple man, and he had been taught to be courteous. Well, after bidding each other farewell for the day, those three sisters, they ascended up, out of the watery realm. Oh, up there, out of the eternally deep, murky pond, and into the world of light. Whoosh.
Birth. Do you think we can trust him? Death. Will we find out, won't we? Dreams. Sisters. I have a confession. I messed with the forbidden door. Just a little bit more of a test. What did you do? What indeed?
Sister Dream explained. Then she used a magical changing spell on that forbidden door, hoping to confuse Racha's sense of orientation and thus leading him either away from temptation or tempting him even more.
And I left the key to the door in plain sight. Ooh, that is wicked. But if he's wise, he'll simply walk away from that door, no matter the change. We'll soon find out, won't we?
Meanwhile, Racha roamed the palace of the three sisters, enjoying and perusing, relaxing, and wandering, when he spied the change in the door from wood to bronze. Then glancing down, he noticed a key.
Pshaw. Oh, I was really disappointed in Racha. When we all returned that evening, I noticed that the key had moved ever so slightly on the table. Oh, at first I was angry. Did you go through that door? I asked. To my surprise, Racha purely and honestly answered, "The bronze door, yes, I did." So I commanded, "Tell us exactly what you saw."
Well, I saw a bronze horse beckoning me to climb upon his back. And take me to the realms of birth, and so I did. I saw my birth, my parents' birth, my grandparents and great-grandparents, and back beyond all time, then forward through time. My children's birth, my grandchildren, my great-grandchildren, and beyond.
Well, Racha, what did you learn?
Well, I learned that the actions of those before me and my actions forward in time affect countless generations throughout time.
So, Racha, what wisdom was discovered?
Well, the wisdom of gratitude.
Interesting, yes.
The three sisters convened and discussed Racha's actions, and they debated whether to punish him or expel him, or even give him another chance. Well, his purity and his honesty prompted their forgiveness. So they resumed the testing.
Racha, when we are leaving again to work on Earth, the palace is yours to roam and partake of, except that one door. Remember, it is forbidden. We'll be
Racha did his best to amuse himself while alone in that vast palace. But then he spotted that same key. And glancing up, he saw that once wooden door, that had once turned to bronze, was now a silver door. Oh, poor Racha. Not an ounce of wise restraint. Well, later that evening...
Did you go through that door, Racha?
Yes. And I saw the most amazing things. Once I entered that silver door, I was welcomed by a majestic silver elephant. He trumpeted. So I hopped on. And then we journeyed to the realms of death.
What did you see?
I saw my death. I saw my parents' death, and grandparents, and great-grandparents, and back beyond all time, and then forward through time. My children's death, my grandchildren, and great-grandchildren, and beyond.
Racha, what did you learn?
Well, I learned that the death of those loved ones before me, and the countless generations of death after my life, well, they've left me with both a terrible grief and a most wondrous joy. The joy of knowing that life will go on.
So, Racha, what wisdom did you discover?
Well, of course, the wisdom of accepting life's cycles.
Interesting. Interesting indeed.
So once again, the three sisters forgave Racha's naivete and fell in love even more so with that pure heart of his demeanor.
Interesting. Interesting indeed. Interesting indeed. Racha, do you want to stay with us? And which of us would you like to marry?
Racha was alarmed. He had not realized that he had a choice. He had a choice? Oh, this sent him into quite a turmoil. Quite a quandary. Choose to stay or return to Earth. Well, true, his life on Earth had become a torture. But the thought of marriage in this realm was somewhat frightening, but possibly fascinating. For now, Racha simply thanked the sisters and promised, I won't enter that forbidden door. I promise.
We will remember your promise, Racha. You have already entered the forbidden door twice. We need to trust you, and now let us dine so that you can know us better and easier to choose whom you will marry, Sister Birth, Sister Death, or myself, Sister Dream.
All this made his choice even more difficult. Still, the next day arrived. The sisters left to continue their sacred task, and this time, Racha sat quietly on a pile of pillows. And he did not rise to explore the gilded rooms of the palace, nor wander the glittering promenades or flowery, fragrant garden paths, and nor did he indulge himself in the fine wines nor the heavenly music.
No. He only stared intensely at the mysterious once wooden door that was once bronze, that was once silver, that very same door that was now completely made of luminous gold. He slowly walked towards the door.
Oh, gold door. Oh, I've witnessed 10 million births and 10 million deaths. Oh, my dreams must be next. Dreams that will see my future. Oh, will my dreams tell me which of those sisters I will choose to marry or not marry? But how is it that I become a father to have witnessed the births and the deaths, the births and the deaths of future generations? Oh, will I move beyond death and live forever here in this palace, in these murky waters, or choose to live up on Earth, but still stuck in a dream? If I choose differently, will the change be better or worse? Better or worse? What about wisdom? Oh, I can't stand not knowing. I don't want to choose. I just want to know.
And with those thoughts, the golden door magically swung completely open with no key needed, and a shimmering light enveloped him, glowing brighter and stronger. Mesmerized, he suddenly ignored his promise to resist. He ignored his learned lessons. He ignored his gained wisdom. He simply stepped into this most radiant golden chamber of dreams, hoping to see his future. Hoping it would reveal itself to him. Now, once inside...
Huh? What? An old brown jackass?
And without any warning, that brown jackass swiftly turned around and hee-haw gave Racha a tremendous kick against his butt.
Ooh, up.
He flew out of the palace gates.
Up.
He ascended through the watery realms.
Higher and higher and higher and higher until he found himself upon the shores of that small murky pond, on the exact spot where he started, where he had first decided to end his life. Now when the three sisters returned to the palace...
He was not worthy. Oh, humans, All for the fear of choosing, all for the fear of the unknown, and all for the fear of trusting their own dream. Back to work, sisters.
Now, can there ever be an end to the story of these three sisters? Of course not.
The three sisters, in their daily journeys, did see Racha up above, often wandering along the edge of their pond.
Well, what was he looking for? His past?
Well, one can only hope that he was searching to create a new present, having been through those dark, murky waters.
To finally being willing to dream a better future?
That would be wise. Only time will tell. But what is time?
It is now.
And now.
And
right now. Whoosh.
Wow.
There we go.
Well, all right. I'm not sure if we have time. It is 1:45 of the next hour, and we were going to do another breakout room, and the prompt was, and so maybe we can go in or we can just do it with each other. The prompt was, if dreams could come true, and they do, what is one dream you want for the future, for yourself, for the world, and what is one thing you can do to start that dream coming true? So, if dreams could come true, and they do, where is one dream? What is one dream you want for the future, for yourself or for the world? And what is one thing you can do to start that dream coming true? So,
We can use an open community discussion.
Some people have to leave, right? Like Rico?
No, I'm just saying, I wish there were no more guns.
Okay, good. I dream for no more guns. Who else? Unmute yourselves.
I would like us to solve the climate change crisis.
So a dream for a green world that's thriving.
I would like to see wealth more evenly distributed, much more evenly distributed than it is.
A dream for equality.
Yeah.
Keep coming.
Well as the other two dreams that were just mentioned.
There's so many, I know.
Yeah. I would like to see all of us be respectful and accepting of those that are different, and not perhaps see the differences, but to see all the commonalities we have as human beings.
Right.
So a world where everyone is respected no matter our differences.
An appreciation of diversity. Yeah.
Keep coming.
Stir it up.
I would like to embrace my tears and my anger.
Your peers.
Yes. So did you say tears?
Or your peers.
Tears, yeah.
Tears and anger.
Welcome the tears and to welcome the anger.
Yes, because if we don't allow our feelings to be expressed, they just get bundled up and they come out in maybe very negative ways. So to be able to love ourselves and allow ourselves to have our feelings. Great dream. What else? You gotta have dreams. Roger didn't have it. He didn't allow himself to dream. You gotta dream. Look what happened to him. He got kicked by a jackass.
Stuck in the past.
There are a lot of jackasses.
That's true. And we don't want them here. No. Some of those jackasses are because they don't allow themselves to feel. Yes, Julie.
I would like that everybody really has the space and time to follow whatever they are good at, fully, and I think that a lot of times there's so much stuff in life to stop you from just pursuing who you are and what you're naturally have a good potential.
Yeah. So to be able to follow your dreams
Yeah, just that.
Yeah.
And what a luxury.
We can do it.
We can do it.
I'd like to see people focus on the beauty of the world around us and not go to outer space to try to find some other kind of world when we live in the most perfect world ever.
Yes.
We need to appreciate it.
Yeah,
A dream where we care about our own world.
it's just an expansion of colonization. We don't need that anymore. Let's get this one right first. More
Others?
comments? Stir it up. And maybe along with some of the dreams you have, what are some actions that you can do? Some simple actions, something you're maybe already doing to fulfill a dream of yours, personally or for the planet.
Personally, I'm starting to write daily little notes about like a little love note to myself on a daily basis.
Great.
To remind yourself. Yes.
Follow those dreams.
I am learning an instrument, which is very nourishing to the soul. I love it.
You know, and when our souls are nourished, there's less negativity in the world.
Yeah. Oh, look at this little one. All right, there's our dream for
Laura.
the future.
I'm active with the local sister district trying to get progressives into office and do my little bit there.
Wonderful. Yeah.
Yes, yes.
Yeah. I'd like to share a dream.
Action.
You know, one of the things that storytellers, professional storytellers have toured around, we've met many Asian American storytellers around the country. Some of you are here now. But in this pandemic era, and with the rise of anti-Asian hate violence, we've banded together to create a YouTube channel called Asian American Storytopia. And the idea is that if people see that this is what Americans look like, there's culture to share, there's activities to share, there's storytelling of very wonderful folk tales and myths, and also personal narratives. It's a way of just opening up the heart to the diversity of our nation.
So the action was to create Storytopia, these kind of 15 to 18 minute little segments for the children, because that's where racism starts, prejudices start. So that was an action.
Yeah. Take a peek
for your
at it.
dream.
Go visit YouTube and visit Asian American Storytopia.
Action. What other things are you doing or that you can do?
I recently learned about a woman who lives probably a mile from where I do, who desperately needs accessible, affordable housing because she is trapped in her apartment because she fell down the stairs. And it's a longer story, but I have connected with her and with a friend of hers who has started a GoFundMe.
Mm-hmm.
I am working on reaching out to my own circle of friends to spread the GoFundMe and also to look into various affordable housing options because this woman's is very compelling and concrete. It's easier for me to deal with something that involves a real person than a cause, a broader cause. At least in this particular instance.
Yeah.
Everyone plays a role. I often think of how, all of us, all humanity is like pixels on a flat screen, and what our duty is to shine the brightest we can, and by doing that, we transform the picture.
Yeah.
Robert and Bowen and I wrote curriculum for 4th and 5th graders about Chinese American history, and it just I felt so excited to do it and so proud when it was done, and I'm really looking forward to it
teaching, as you said, Nancy, children the true history of Chinese American people in California, because it's California based. And it's an alternative to the missions. Fourth graders in California build models of the missions, which were such genocidal places and racist and horrible.
Yeah, yeah.
So I'm really excited that we did that.
Yeah, we have to get them out to the schools now. And I know my sister Jo has got, Connecticut just said they were going to do Asian American history now, has to be taught in the schools. Chicago does. I think in California we do too, right? At least in San Francisco, the Bay Area.
And many more cities are starting to make
Yeah.
statements of apology for the genocide, the lynching, the Exclusion Act.
Various groups in various towns in California where they drove out the Chinese and burned their villages, etc. Yeah.
Great. More actions, more dreams, more dreaming actions.
I'm so concerned about the amount of plastic in the world, and there's only so much that you can actually recycle, that I've purchased a box from Terra Cycling, and they're kind of expensive, but you fill them up and they have postage paid, and you ship it to them, and they will then recycle all these things that you can't recycle.
Can you
home.
put that in the chat, Linda, so the rest of us can look at
Okay.
being able to do that? Because we are killing our fish and our oceans and
sky.
rivers and yeah, and we all, have little bits of plastic in our blood.
Yes.
Yeah, the
Great.
Yeah.
Recycling. That's an action easy to take.
Yeah. And more if you can
reuse.
And also if you can avoid plastic bags altogether, like instead of buying a package of carrots, make sure that you get the loose carrots and feed them in a recycling bag.
Same with the veggies.
I just want to say out loud what the ASL interpreters put in the chat, providing culturally relevant ASL access for diverse, deaf, and hard of hearing communities to access and share our rich API culture.
Yes, absolutely. Thank
Nicole
you.
and Bob, wonderful to watch you in action.
So it's about 5 to 7, so people have to get on with their lives. But we want to thank Rob and Nicole for their beautiful signing.
And Diana Lee.
And Diana Lee from APICC.
TJ Bassa from APICC helping with the Eth-Noh
And
back there.
Ruba, who did our tech for us. Because you can tell we really need it. Thank you so much for coming. And, we can say goodbye, but if you want to stay on to just chat, we can do that too. We'll be on for about another, 20 minutes?
Sure.
And we can just talk.
Yeah, we have a green room, literally.
But thank you so much for everyone. And thank you for APICC for choosing us to be part of their festival.
And do visit the rest of the festival. It's running for a couple more weeks, I believe, right, Diana? Yeah, all kinds of
Yes,
wonderful...
until June 30th. And and we're celebrating Kearney Street Workshop's 50th anniversary next weekend.
Yes,
and then
the
at
11th.
the end of the month, it's Asian Improv's 35th anniversary. So lots of milestones.
And APICC's 25th.
Yes. We've already celebrated our 25th, and we're celebrating it with the whole festival.
For the non-locals.
And tomorrow I just want to plug that we are also having our featured artist, Macrowaves. They're an art collective. They're doing an immersive, meditative installation at Swim Gallery. I believe that's in the Tenderloin. And so, check that out too on our calendar.
Yeah.
All right. Very good.
Wonderful. Have a wonderful
love you, folks.
rest of the night, the
We'll
weekend.
see you out there.
And we'll be back to see you hopefully somewhere else or maybe here on Zoom again.
Yeah.
Thank you so much for joining us.
Bye-bye.
Thank you, Robert and Nancy. We
Thank
love
you.
you.
Mwah, mwah, mwah.
Thank you, Rico. All right.